council in advance of the budget, so sometime for autumn 2021. So my only suggestion there is that we update the deadline date for that last goal to read September 2021. Councillor Rowley.
Can you just clarify what page you're on? I'm not following you based on.
I'm on this one, which I can't tell you which. Yeah, I think it says 10 of 34 from the last.
10 of 34? 10 of 34. I'm on 24 of 34.
Yeah, or as Candace said, there's the second one, which is the.
Okay, got it there. Sorry, thank you.
Not at all. And I apologize. I've ripped mine apart. So.
Okay, sorry.
Mr. Parkinson.
Through your worship, the department responsible for that should also be updated to Public Works.
Thank you. And as the director of said department, are you comfortable with September of 2021 as the deadline date?
Yes, I am.
Thank you. Any comments or questions from council? Councillor Bateman?
You're looking at, just so I'm clear, the identify accessibility requirements in the facilities?
I am.
In the update?
That's correct.
So when it says facility condition assessments report,
Is it possible to get an outline of what facility? Because we have probably quite a few.
so what, is it capturing all of them, including Hilton, all the different ones?
Through your worship, it's every facility the municipality owns.
So I'm going to move along then, if everyone's okay with that, to. I told you I had it ripped apart, right? The next one is promote wellness in the community. And assist in funding the skateboard park. Well, we know we've done that because it's almost complete. The construction is almost complete. And even though the construction is not complete, we know it's being well used. So that's wonderful in and of itself. So we're going to mark that as done, complete. Review recreation, wellness, leisure master plans on file, develop a strategy for growth in recreation leisure space. Staff have noted that the pickleball expansion is a good example of things that are going, but I'm going to suggest that we revise the date as something like to be discussed or future allocation, because although pickleball is something that we're doing, it doesn't really speak to the overall master plan for recreation, in my opinion. So when I say to be discussed, I mean this evening. What do we think? It was listed as December 2020 as the deadline for that. Mr. Miller, as the lead on that, would you recommend a date for that review? So June 22. Councillor Rowley.
Thank you, Mayor. Is this review based on the master plan that we have on file as this is now, or are we redoing the whole master plan file? Or is this just on what information on, are we dusting off what we have?
What the strategy contemplates is reviewing what we have on file.
What we have now. Okay.
Councillor LeBlanc.
Yes, just one point. Pickleball. So, is the master plan? Is pickleball part of the master plan?
It's probably not identified as pickleball because pickleball, I think, is fairly new to our community. I would rely on Mr. Miller to advise, but I would suspect that it says something with regard to outdoor recreation, which would be lumped into that. But Mr. Miller, can you speak to that? Did you hear the question?
So is it 2022 for pickleball or 2021?
No, well, 2021 for pickleball, because that's in our budget. Yeah, that's in our budget. 2022 to review the master plan. to provide a fulsome review of the master plan. You're okay then? Okay, thank you. The next one is implement recreation trails master plan recommendations. And my suggestion is that that we move the date on this to the build out of the LeBlanc subdivision, because that's part and parcel of the completion of that trail system, or a piece of that trail system, not the completion of a piece of that trail system. So with that, does anyone know what Mr. LeBlanc's plans are with regard to the completion for that subdivision? And I'm looking at Mr. Walsh behind Mr. Miller.
Thank you, Mayor. There's been some contact with the consultant late this afternoon. They plan on submitting something this month, either mid or end of the month, and then we'll know. There was discussions for a trail on the north side. There were discussions for a trail on the south side as well. So whether we go with both or one, it was felt by staff when we walked the lands on the south side that was maybe more preferred. It was drier, more aesthetic. It seemed to link up to other things, probably a little bit better going west and a little bit better going east, with the landing spot for the trail on the east side of the street. But the proponent may still be willing and interested to provide something on the north side. There will be another development applications at some point coming forward on the north side, and at which time the question of parkland dedication can be addressed through that development application.
Mr. Walsh, do you know the planned build out of the subdivision in question? Do you know what the plan is for timeline on the build out of that?
I don't have a indication of the timeline for when shovels will be in the ground, constructing streets and that sort of thing, but they do seem to be fairly urgent in timeframes of getting the required paperwork forward and a decision made.
Thank you, Councillor Anderson.
With that, I know how long it's taken to build Coburg. The Coburg site, which is going to be which is similar to this site. I hope we made a lot of changes that it doesn't make it the same. However, could we not expedite this trail when he does get his approvals to go ahead, and we make that final agreement that it's going to happen, rather than wait? It could be 10 years before that's completed. At the pace that there's a lot of buildings going in.
Likely be part of a subdivision agreement. Is that correct, Mr. Walsh?
Through the mayor, yes, we can stipulate what happens in what phase. So presumably it would be a phased development, and we can ask for that perhaps to be in the earlier phase than a late phase. And yeah, so it would be part of the draft conditions of the subdivision and implemented through the agreement.
Thank you. Councillor Rowley, did you have your hand up? Councillor LeBlanc?
Yes, through you, your worship. The last council meeting that we had on this, Councillor Tadman brought up that there used to be a trail committee. And I was wondering if there's an appetite by council and the staff, if a trail committee would help in doing all the trails and getting a master plan going, even going some of the old studies that were done for Gosport, the trails, and getting all the reports back and looking at all the trails and the reports that were paid for wellness for the municipality of Brighton and the residents, including the Bose property and linking everything else, because they have the walking trail for the bike trail. Everything could all link up. So maybe a committee would be helpful, just to look at it for strategic planning.
Thank you. You're getting ahead of my notes here, but thank you for that. So before we get off of this topic, I'm wondering what we should, I'm looking for staff's advice on what we should put for a deadline date for the implementation of the Trails Master Plan recommendations. Mr. Miller?
It's a hard one because you have no control over the date. I can give you a date, and like this one.
So give us a date.
Okay, we'll go December 2025.
Is that a reasonable date, do you think?
Well, there's more than just one section that we had to look at.
Because the LeBlanc lands are just one section, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
and everybody knows we're still working on whatever we can get, right?
So I'm going to put 2025. Is there any objection to that? Councillor Tadman?
Wouldn't necessarily say objection, but I definitely think that we need to resurrect the trail committee because I don't want to speak publicly at this moment about some land that also will be developed shortly, and it's a time for us to negotiate with that particular developer. And it's the same with the LeBlanc property. We don't have to wait for it to be built to get a confirmation about a trail. And the same farther along to link that all the way up. I have talked to some of the people that own that property, and I think sometimes if they know you well and trust you, sometimes we can negotiate. I won't say let's make a deal, but let's negotiate. So I would like to see that committee, not necessarily, I'm not putting my name forward as the one, I'm just saying I think it needs to be resurrected.
I'm going to bring that up next.
I thought you were there.
No, I'm still looking for the confirmation of the date for the implementation of the trail master plan. So Mr. Miller has suggested December 2025. Is everyone okay with that for now as a bookmark date? If it happens sooner, it happens sooner.
Well, it's kind of outdated before we even go on. Why bother?
Because unfortunately, we don't own the lands that we're talking about to implement the trails master plan. So
but we do own other lands, such as east of the restaurant at Gosport, or west of it.
I understand, but to implement the master plan, we'd need to put the trails on lands we don't own. Because the master plan is the Butler Creek Trail system. So is 2025 okay with everyone as a bookmark? Understanding that if it happens sooner, it happens sooner.
I agree. I think 25 is a little too far out. I'm just wondering if it's going to fall too far back on the burner. Can we do 23?
You can do whatever you want.
Sure. I mean, it's all dependent on what your definition of implement is. We're implementing it today based on what we're doing.
Exactly. Yeah.
So how about 23? 2023 good?
That's now. We're not going to get it done.
Yeah, we can revisit it next year. That's fine. Like, that's right. So I'm going to put 23. Okay. Good. Okay. So I'm not going to the next strategy. We're writing. I'm going to ask council, do we want to develop a trails committee or reestablish a trails committee, however you want to word that? Councillor LeBlanc.
Like on a trail committee, like Elmy Rowley has a lot of knowledge on different reports and stuff, and some of the trails that she's mentioned and the reports that have been out there, the information I got it from Councillor Rowley, because these reports are out there and they're shelved and they're gathering dust. The committee could get these and get all these reports and all these trails that are all supposed done, because the past council spent a lot of the taxpayer, the residents' money on this, on taxpayer money. We now have an individual here that basically can do all the drawings and everything on any type of trail in our rural area, in our municipality, relatively quick. And we can have maps and presentation of where it's going to go and everything, because the history of these things are there. Like when Councillor Rowley brought that up to me about the trail and the money that was spent for the Gosport Trail and stuff, like I didn't know it was there. I still haven't seen the report, but I know it's there. I've heard it from Councillor Tadman. I've heard it from yourself. So a committee would bring all these things together and keep it going, because it keeps on moving and working with staff to get it done. That's why I feel it should be there.
Councillor Anderson.
Our deputy mayor brought up a good point there a number of times, but the last meeting she mentioned bike trails, and I haven't heard that quite a while, but I know that's a big feature for a lot of municipalities, and I know biking in this municipality is very big too. And when you consider the provincial park again, and a lot of these trail areas, the waterfront trail is bikeable. So I think the deputy mayor had a really good point. So that trail committee, it would encompass that too. I would add that to your list.
It is on my list. I did hear the deputy mayor's comment, so
Oh, right.
we'll get to that. I think
Well,
under,
I didn't want it to get
I can't remember what strategy I wrote it down under, but I think it's there somewhere. Councillor Tadman.
Just to remind everybody that there is the Apple Route Trail, the bike trail. And that's another thing that some people don't even know about. And I think we're not selling ourselves well because some of staff don't have the history here. And therefore it's our responsibility to bring them up to date on what is out there. And I know that the former mayor and some of his friends used to ride that trail, I think from Coburg down to Picton, and it's all marked all the way through that bike trail. So maybe we need more trails to go north. I don't know, but certainly there is that one there that, and maybe you have some other ideas about that, Deputy Mayor.
Deputy Mayor.
Well, in my mind, and I think people should be able to hop on their bike and bike to town from any of the urban areas, and but without having to necessarily go on a road. I mean, obviously you're gonna have to go on a road in some part of it, but I just think this is a now thing, today's sort of thing to do is to work on it. And I know sometimes we feel we're committed to death, but I think this is a great idea. So a committee that's working on how to develop these trails and what we don't own, what we do own, and just getting an inventory of what we have and promoting what we do have and working on what we can. I think that's a simple, I know even trails cost money, but it's a simple way to showcase the beautiful place we live and making it, walkable and bikeable for people. So to me, I think it's important, and I think we need a committee in order to do it. But
Okay, so if I'm reading council right, we do want to establish a trails committee. The responsible department, I assume, would either be the admin or clerk's department, right, to establish in concert with Parks and Rec, right?
Sorry, what about economic development?
All right,
I think it should be connected.
clerks, ECDev, and Parks and Rec. And when do we want this trail committee established? And don't say yesterday. I need a reasonable date. Well, we need a terms of reference. Council will need to pass a terms of reference, and then we'll need to advertise, and then we'll need to fill the committee. So I think that's at least 3 months away.
I'm thinking September.
Yeah.
A lot of
Okay.
people aren't as engaged in the summertime. I would say maybe kind of organize something for September, and then you've got another year to kind of, for people to get some stuff on paper.
Deputy Mayor?
and there's no sense in establishing a committee right now with COVID. Everything is up in the air until we have a clear idea where that is. Like, we can't try to start up a new committee. We can barely get together with the committees we do have.
Mr. Miller?
My question was based on the past committee that we had, the former Trails Committee. Are we looking at the public? Are we looking for that kind of a committee?
Yes. As I read council and the discussion, we're looking for a traditional advisory committee of council, which would be a majority of citizens and a council rep, or two at the most. Councillor Tadman?
Thank you, Mayor. The previous one, we also, and Jim, what did you say? We walked the trail with a former planner, and I won't mention all the problems we got into at that time, but I think the planning department, someone in the planning department should be a part of it, at least at some of the meetings, because they always have to be cognizant as they work with developers.
Fair enough. I won't write them down as the responsible department. They would be a staff resource for the committee as the committee moves forward. So establish Trails Committee, Clerk, ECDev, Parks and Rec as the responsible team, and September 2021 as the deadline. Okay? So I'm going to go back up to prepare an updated recreational facility plan as a goal. And I guess I want everyone also to wrap their heads around the two goals under that. And my question is, should we be merging these together into one goal? So the next one is plan for a new ice surface, arena and curling club, and redevelop space for a new senior drop-in center. And Mr. Miller, I think you had somewhere recommended some sort of team, or I hesitate to use the word committee, but some group that would come together to help with something like that.
Yeah, it'd be like a lot like we did when we developed the community center build. It was, at the time, it was a mayor's task force. And it was made up of, councilors, some citizens, some staff, pretty much, everybody on the committee had something to add.
Councillor Anderson?
Thanks, Jim. That was on my list of homework that I went through after you sent that email out. I think there should be a mayor's task force on that. I think that's a biggie. I think it encompasses a lot of, your little map here encompasses a lot of features that we're looking at. I won't mention them all, but it's not just about arena. It's not just about curling. It's not just about, there's just a lot going into what you're talking about. And I think there should be a mayor's task force on that whole concept. I won't say any more about it because there's a lot more to it. But
So I don't think we need to label it the mayor's task force. I think it would be perhaps the recreational space committee or task force or team or group or whatever we want to call that. The last time it was I think it was titled the mayor's task force because it had to be done fairly quickly. When we had money coming in and we needed to come up with a design in order to get that grant. So
that would be a task.
it had to be turned fairly quickly.
Yeah, and the Focus 2000 report kind of was the
Helped out with that. Yeah.
So
I've written down establish recreational space task force. Is that what you had in mind, Mr. Miller?
Yeah, I think we need a task force to discuss, see what we need or what we need to focus on. We may very well have to have a feasibility study after that to look at all the different costs and builds and whatnot that you can come up with.
Councillor Anderson.
I may be wrong on this, but and I don't mean to take it away from the public or anything like that, but would it be proper to start with a task force that's made up of staff and possibly counselors and your department to look, because you're talking about buildings, you're talking about possibility of knocking down buildings, you're talking, is it something that you want a committee at that level right away? Like we want the feedback of what the public wants, yes. But I'm just saying, if we're going to be talking about putting another building where there's a building now, I'm not sure if I think that should be probably thought out like we're doing now, actually thought out before we go to a committee level.
So if we go down that road, what staff would do would bring council a terms of reference that would include the opportunities for who would be on that task force. So it could be council, some members of council, could be staff, and it could be interested parties in the community with recreational background. So, someone
could it be also potential partner?
Yeah. So it could be like YMCA. It could be minor hockey people. It could be, you want to make sure without watering down the committee that you're getting the voices you want to hear from in that. So is everyone comfortable with just the concept of establishing this kind of task force before we go on? Yeah? No? Yeah? I've written down clerk, admin, and Parks and Rec as the responsible team for the creation of that task force. And I'd like to know what date council would like on that as a deadline for the creation of the task force itself. Go ahead, Councillor Anderson.
I would like to see that again, September. I'd like to see us get at that, even though it's going to be a long process, I understand, but there's a lot of factors in this design or in this blueprint. So I think we should get at it.
Does anyone object to September? Councillor Rowley.
I hate to object to some of this, but how much do we expect staff to get ready for the future?
Well, at some point, we'll have to hear from staff that they're going to need to hire someone to be the recording secretary for all these committees we've created.
That's the other thing. Like this is, we want to get a trails committee together. We need to, I agree that at some point we're going to have a new recreation facility, but that's not going to happen for us. So I don't see the urgency in putting the task force together at this time myself. Like,
So what date would you put?
what's that?
What date would you suggest?
Well, this council isn't going to make any decisions at all on this facility. So I'm thinking, why not leave it for a while? There's a lot of things we need to put money into, and I'm not so sure, money and time and staff resources, that getting something like this ready, we're not going to put money in the bank for something like this for a little while. I think we've got other places to spend money, and I don't think we're going to get that done within this term of council. It should be something we look at long term, but I think it's going to be a lot to ask staff to do to get a big project like this even organized.
So what date would you put?
25.
Councillor Tadman.
Thank you, Mayor. The one thing that I felt we were lacking, and correct me if I'm wrong, we never really got to the people's opinion of how they'd like to see the town move forward. And let's call them stakeholders. And so we have so many people here that have excellent qualifications that have retired and come to Brighton. I don't necessarily say 2025, and it's certainly, you don't have to move quickly on something like this, but you have to sort of put your heads together and figure out, if it's even feasible. So before we even form a task force, could we somehow let the public know that these are some of the things that we'd like to do? What do you think about it? Because I don't even want to finalize this strategic plan until the stakeholders, and I'm talking about not only downtown business, the chamber and people like that, but let's get somebody that's developing properties here. Let's get their opinion about, because those are the people that know what can be done in a lot of ways. If we go to 2025, we might all be under the ground by then. Then we don't have to, no. But I still think that bring the right people together, and you don't necessarily have to get ready to have shovel in the ground. We've got some property that we've invested in. So, how do we go about getting people with knowledge, their ideas about something like this?
That's I think that's a fair question to ask, and I don't know the fulsome answer to the question, but if we are going to start somewhere, it's with a consultative process through this task force. So you're not in favor of 2025. What
I would be in favor of even now starting having a task force. That doesn't involve necessarily a lot of staff time. Because certainly somebody can take minutes in a group of people, but if you put it out there that this is what we're looking for in the community, and certain people I'm sure people will want to be a part of that, because a lot of these people have come and retired at a rather young age. They still have a lot of time to do recreational things and want to. And they may have backgrounds, I don't know, but they may have all kinds of background in how to go about this, how to even seek the funding. We have a wonderful new member on the Digital Archives who did this for a living. And she knows how to get the grants.
Right. And more we're attracting people who are still working to the community.
Yeah.
Especially after people are starting to work from home.
Right.
That's what we're finding more and more. So there are those opportunities. Councillor LeBlanc.
Through your worship, I'm going to do a little bit of a tag team here. So the thing is,
you're learning from Bob.
Yeah, I'm learning from I'm copying.
Well,
Bob.
you just said Folsom and Bob likes supper
There
too.
you go.
So when I look at this rec center in this complex, I was trying to get my head around it, and asking a few questions. And being an individual that drove around Ontario quite a bit, and I looked at smaller communities that don't have a soccer field, don't have a splash park, don't have playgrounds, don't have ball diamonds, don't have everything there. One thing I noticed that they all had in the community center was a youth summer program, which just used to have, but they don't have it anymore because they didn't have a place to go. And they all had a daycare facility attached to it. So they were attached to the hockey rink, the curling, but as a complex, I saw this daycare, youth program that was running. So we have all the facilities there. We have the soccer, we have the ball, we have the splash park, we have the skateboard park. We have all the things for our youths to be there. We just got to have some type of program or something to bring them in for bring the summer. But it's the why, tried to do it, but they didn't have the facilities. When it rained, I heard they would have to come and hide in the library here and read books, which is good for them. But if we're going to build this complex, let's look at it for the total community, not just for the seniors, but also for the youths and the working all at the same time. So that's what I'm looking at. So I think this task force would go into that. But if we're going to do it, let's go with comprehensive because we have everything there.
When would you suggest establishing this task force?
The task force?
Yeah.
In 2021, I would have it by September.
There you go. Thank you.
2021.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Councillor Bateman, do you have a comment?
I'm okay with that date to establish the task force, but for the dates that we're talking about to put on there for the end date, that's really, like you've said multiple times, that's really just a placeholder date. So if you put it too early, you're going to have to keep pushing the date out. So there's no sense putting a date that's unreasonable
the
for anybody to obtain that, right?
The only thing we're doing tonight is putting a date to establish the task force. That's it. No, nothing else.
My only other comment would be I'd like to hear from the Director of Parks and Rec, since this would fall under him, on what you think would be a reasonable date.
Mr. Miller?
I would like to see it sooner than later. We have talked about this here. Part of our strategy plan. Over the last 2 or 3 rounds that we've done a strategy plan.
It's one of those things we seem to like to talk about and do little about. So maybe it's time we start doing something about it. Are you allowed to say anything? Yes, Madam Clerk, you may say something. I think this is where we hear what about staff resources with regard to committees. Madam Clerk.
The only issue that I have is that we're going into election, and all my staff is going to be focused on election coming, well, very shortly. So I just don't know how we would be able to establish more committees when we're going into an election at this time. I'd have to see if we can use other staff resources instead of the clerk's department.
So that's something for us to consider as we move forward. Did you have a comment, Mr. Castleman?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, my only comment as far as resources is this is an opportunity for council to rejig the priorities. And once you've rejigged the priorities, staff will come back to you and say, what staff resources do we need in order to implement? If you want to do this by October of this year, we'll assess what the impacts of that redirection are. We have existing work plans in place. And if we add a whole bunch of stuff this year, something's going to fall off the table with the existing work plans. So in due course, once we've gone through this exercise, I'll come back and I'll suggest that, yes, we can do this. We're going to need this staff resource to complete it on time. And we're going to have to drop this or redirect or reschedule the existing items that we have in place for 2021. So this exercise is all about prioritization and setting goals for both the short and long term. But let's understand what council wants and what they feel are the priorities, and then we'll react to that and let you know what staff team you need in place in order to accomplish that.
Councillor Tadman.
Thank you. I don't think we're asking a whole bunch of work from staff when you're only going to meet perhaps once a month. And we're not going to say, okay, staff, now you go back and do this, 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 and this. I think for this particular one especially, it's getting all kinds of ideas from different people with different expertise. So a meeting that maybe lasts 2 hours once a month is not going to need a full-time staff. And the same with the whole trails and bikes.
No, I understand that point of view, but keep in mind we're on strategy number 2, and we've already added 2 committees to the staffing pressures. So just keep that in mind. That's all. Mr. Miller.
And I go back to the amount that's on the committee. I mean, is it an ad hoc? Is it a full-blown council, committee of council? You know, that's the thing when we talk about starting.
When I see the word task force, it means it has an end date. It means it will deliver a report and a recommendation to council, and council will thank them for their work. Now, that could take a couple of years, but they'll thank them for their work, and we'll take that report,
right, and
it will become a work plan for forward momentum, and probably to be included in the next strategic plan for actual capital outlay. Yeah. Deputy Mayor.
Okay, so I'm perplexed. We have a strategic plan. We have things that need to be done, and council can't always have to discuss all these things at our regular meetings, because our meetings would be 10 hours long. So we try to develop committees to alleviate that, but then we're told that we shouldn't be developing more committees because that causes more work. And I don't know how to get these things done. It bothers me, and maybe someone can explain it to me. How do we get things done? We are elected to get these things done, to move the community forward. Yes, it's work. That's what we're all here to do, is to make this community a better place to live. How are we supposed to get it done if we always get pushback? I need to know what we're supposed to do in order to get these things done and not have 10-hour council meetings.
I think Mr. Castleman made it clear that they would take the strategic plan update that we were finished with and provide us with information on what we might need as a municipality to get the strategic plan items completed in the time that we're asking for it to be done. But I see Mr. Castleman would like to make comment.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I sense your frustration here, and from my perspective, absolutely no pushback. This is the team that makes the decisions for the community. I get that, and I respect that 100%. And I'm very much looking forward to you collectively providing this team, the staff team, with the marching orders. And what are your priorities? Are they the same as the existing strat plan, or are they somewhat different? And then accordingly, we'll go in that direction. We'll shift our priority. But absolutely no pushback. We'll get things done. This is all about prioritization and setting goals that we feel are achievable at the end of the day. As I said, I'll come back to you, and once you've established those goals, and I'll let you know what the resources are that you're going to need. No pushback.
So we've been at this for an hour, and we're not quite through strategy number 2, just so everyone knows what the timeline's looking like here. Councillor LeBlanc.
Through you, Your Worship, through the CEO. Since I've been on council, we have hired numerous employees for public works, planning, and the deficiencies and the employees that we're missing. Since I've been on here, I've been trying to get an extra clerk for the clerk department, and probably to get all these committees done and to get all this work done is probably someplace that you should be looking, because you've got how many supervisors now in the public works? Quite a few, 4 employees, but we've lacked on the filing, the clerk. We're having problems with our committees and stuff. So maybe you should look at an extra person in the clerk's department, so we don't have these things. So like the deputy mayor says, to get these things done. If it's council with committees, we got to have these things done. I'm just a suggestion. It's a way to look at it. Thank you.
Thank you. So what I have is establish a recreational space task force. Responsible department is the clerk, the admin, and Parks and Rec. And a deadline for the establishment of the task force of September 2021. Everybody okay? With the exception of Councillor Rowley, everybody okay? All right. So we're going to go on to the next. If we then look at the next 4 goals: prepare an updated recreational facility plan, plan for new ice surface, create redevelop space for a new senior drop-in center, plan for a dedicated recreational fitness facility that includes opportunities for aquatics. Can we strike those off of the strategic plan? Because it would become part and parcel of what the task force does. Is that fair? Does anyone disagree with that statement? So those 4 items are coming out of the strategic plan and will become part of the responsibility of the task force to develop those plans. So the next one is promote wellness initiatives for children and teens, Parks and Rec, June 2022. Any comments? Councillor Bateman?
When you look at that in the strategic plan, would we be able to define what that means? Because anybody from the outside looking in, what does it mean? And
it's a good question.
Yeah.
I don't recall. I don't remember why we put it on there or exactly what it means. Mr. Miller, do you have any concept?
When I look at this, I take it as, again, just being current with what the demands are for the youth in the area and being cognizant and trying to, do our best to help that level.
Would you recommend removing it from the strategic plan?
I just see that captured under the ones you just put under the other one. The promotion part is promoting the activities from the soccer to the baseball, to the hockey, to the, if we get the trails committee, to the biking, and then that's where Mr. Hagenman could take over with the communications and promote everything that we do. Because if you read that, if a citizen was reading that, promoting wellness initiatives.
So let's remove it from the strategic plan as a separate strategy, understanding that we've developed 2 committees that will likely be speaking to that concept entirely. And once
step on, once that task force and that committee takes off, that's what you're promoting.
Right. So the next is everyone okay with removing that from the strategic plan? Any objections? Next goal is develop medical space. Staff have noted that the BHSC expansion is complete. I would suggest that if we eventually develop a recreational space, that perhaps the YMCA or a group like the YMCA would migrate into that new space, which would free up more space at our health service center, and we would revisit that item. So the suggestion I'm going to make is this, at least for this strategic plan, is complete for now. Deputy Mayor.
There's a big and there, and it says and other medical services. And I think it's there for a reason, because there are always other things coming up like nurse practitioners and that sort of thing. And I think that's why the and is there. So in my mind, we've completed a portion of it, but we haven't completed all of it. I think it's an ongoing thing.
So do we leave it as January 2024 then?
I think that's why it has that date on there.
Okay.
So, yes.
Everyone comfortable leaving it as is? Yeah. So the next one is build an outdoor recreational space that accommodates all season sporting opportunities, including recreational skating in the winter. We have, as you know, purchased outdoor rinks that have gone up, and I think were fairly well used, pretty successful concept. So well done, everyone who got that into the budget. What does council want to do with that particular strategy now? Do we feel that that's enough, or was there more to that particular strategy? Your microphone.
Enhance that with some call it services or amenities or whatever, but we want to enhance it. It's nice to we put them out there in a hurry. It wasn't the best winter to do it, but it got good and cold for a month, and then after that it was all over. But I think we want to enhance it, and in both areas. That's the initial plan. We'll see where it goes next week.
So do we want to leave the strategy as is?
What?
Do you want to leave the strategy as is?
you said, do you want to expand on it?
Do you want to expand on it? Do you want to leave it as is?
Well, it's basically as is. Yeah, we can expand, we can do whatever we want with it as we move along, right?
Everybody comfortable with that? Councillor LeBlanc?
For the Department of Parks and Rec. Over in Codrington, in the rural one, it was only a small size because they couldn't find a level area. Are you going to be leveling an area off so the complete hockey rink can be put in for this winter coming up?
Mr.
Next
Miller?
winter coming up?
Anyone else? Are we comfortable leaving it as is? Yeah? Okay. There was also some discussion at the last meeting asking about partnerships with the local schools for outdoor recreational space. Is that something we want to add to the list, or do we want to assume that assume's a bad word, but do we want to ensure that it's encapsulated in the task force's concepts? There's a lot of people want to talk to this. Councillor Tadman.
Well, as far as I know, the public school is used for soccer, isn't it? And that must have been agreed upon by the soccer association and the school board. They own the land. I don't know how much negotiating we can do. I brought up about the trail at the high school, which we partnered with, everybody should know that they can use that when it's not being used by the students. But other than that, I don't know how we partner.
Well, our friends in the Ministry of Education suggest that public spaces owned by school boards should be made available to the greater community, and there's often pushback from school boards when the community tries to do that. So I don't know. Do we want that? Just the question is, do we want to include it as a strategy to try to partner, or are we comfortable with what I'll call the piecemeal uses that happen now? Councillor Tadman.
Just further on that, I think there is some, especially with the school here, because it's so close to a lot of traffic, everything else that goes on. And I can understand why we can't do an awful lot there. The other thing with COVID, the kids can't even play on the playgrounds. So I don't know how much negotiating you're going to do anything.
Well, today, not much, my guess would be, but tomorrow is coming, right?
But does somebody have an idea what they want if we do partner with them? I don't even know what do you want to partner with the
basketball courts was the specific example that was mentioned at the last meeting.
But we do have other places that we can put basketball nets.
Right, but there are existing basketball nets already paid for by the taxpayer on the public school grounds. And that's why I think the question of, can we be partnering with these people so that the public can use those spaces after hours?
Well, they do anyways, don't they? And nobody stops them.
Not everywhere.
They do, but people have to understand that you are trespassing if you're using it without the permission of the school.
The same with the playgrounds?
Yeah. If you're on school grounds when school's not in session, well, even if it isn't, you don't belong there. You're trespassing on school property. So you have to, the schools turn a blind eye to this because they know they have playground space and they know those spaces are being used. But specifically to soccer has an agreement, for example, to use the soccer pitches at, I think, at least 2 of the 3 schools in the community.
And baseball over at the other end.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. And instead of debating this now, because we don't have the answers and that's not what we're supposed to be doing, can we just agree to maybe add this to the task force and then it gets discussed with that group and it can be one of their strategies?
Is that fair?
Sure.
So we're going to add.
You're just so brilliant.
I am public school space use. All right, good. You may.
Well, you make a good point about the track that a lot of people have no idea. It's a great place for them to go walk, run, or when it's not in use by the school. What about the field? Is that a soccer field or is it a football field or is it used by any of the
It's used by our local soccer club. Yeah, for sure. The U14s and U16s use it for sure, or did 10 years
Well,
ago.
well, as long as we know we can promote it, but the track is an excellent point that I don't think a lot of people know they can go out and use it.
Councillor Bateman?
I was just going to add to that, the soccer field is used by the youth groups that you said, and the soccer fields at the public school are no longer used. All the soccer for Brighton Minor Soccer take place at either King Edward Park or at the high school. They don't play over at Brighton Public anymore.
Thank you for that. So the other suggestion I make is adding a line, develop infrastructure plans to create a walkable, bikeable community. We know that we've got lots of work being done on sidewalks. The deputy mayor made a comment about it would be great if we had an actual strategy to include biking lanes and biking paths. And her dream, of course, is that you can get anywhere in the municipality without ever driving on a road while riding your bike.
We call it
Or
Second
something
Holland.
like that.
We might have to write.
Or something like that. Just like Holland. I think that's exactly what she envisioned in that. Right? Why not?
I can see the logo now.
So shall we include that? That's my question. Does council agree to include that or something like that in the plan? Develop infrastructure plans to create walkable, bikeable community. Yes. So that part of the Trails Committee?
I think that's a good idea. So that, because if we put Trails Committee, just the trails that we're talking about, they'll run out of things to talk about until they have the property. So this gives a variety of things to.
So I'm writing including biking paths under the Trail Committee. And so you're comfortable not including an infrastructure plan, then we'll take that out. Okay, thank you. If there's nothing else under promote wellness in the community, I'm going to move on. Go ahead.
I just want to go back to your the partner with local schools, because it was basically a specific school we were looking at, and I believe that in the 2020 budget there have been money set aside, if I'm correct, Linda, was there not, to partner with maybe Smithfield or consider doing something with Smithfield. So I'm just wondering if there's money sitting there already, should we look into it a little bit deeper? Because I thought we did set something aside in the 19 or the 20 budget for
Director Whitfield?
Based on,
No, we didn't set any money aside for that project. I recall that the school board or the school parent committee had submitted a grant and aid application.
Right. And there was to maybe be some conversation between the CAO and maybe the local principal, school board, blah, blah, blah. I don't know if that ever happened.
I don't have a recollection of what you're speaking of. I remember talking about it, but I don't remember providing any direction. Mr. Castleman?
I have no recollection.
Thank you. We know that space is available, and it would be great if the Board of Education was a good partner with the municipality to let the school-aged children of Smithfield area participate in that recreational activity on those lands.
Not all of them have benefit to the urban area, right?
Right.
Are we partnering with them by providing them?
Yeah, we've already given them a sidewalk from downtown Smithfield right to the back of the playground structure.
Well, I didn't bring that up. I didn't bring that up. But we're partnering. We're letting them use our soccer fields and our facilities. So we're not charging them for that, are we?
Who?
They're using our soccer fields and.
Who is?
The schools. Like Councillor Bateman said, the schools are coming over and using our facility. Yeah. So a good partnership normally would be a something that, like a little trade-off here, like maybe we'll help you, you help us.
But again, we've added including public school spaces to the task force's list of things to do. So I think we leave it there for now and see what the task force reports back on. Councillor Bateman?
I know we want to move on, and so do I, but just for something quick, if we wanted to know if we could have permission, because you said that we weren't sure whether people could go on there, could somebody reach out to our school board trustee perhaps and get clarification on the rules around kids going into the playground after hours? Yeah, I'm sure Cindy would answer that question pretty quick.
Thank you for that. So we're going to move on to be a responsible municipal team. That's the strategy. And we'll go down the list. Review annual budget process. That's complete. Everyone disagree? The next is develop a 5-year operational plan. And my suggestion is moving this to sort of mid 2022 so that we can provide staff with the opportunity to get through that facilities assessment so they can develop that plan for us. Any objections to that? That's going to become June 2022. Develop a 10-year capital plan. I'm going to suggest the same. Any objections to that? Is that good for you also, Preston? I'm looking at you. Yeah, okay.
Through your worship.
Yep.
We're pretty much at a 6 or 7 year plan for a lot of our stuff on what we can afford already. So that's not too far of a stretch to go to 10.
Okay, thank you. Develop a strategic plan. Well, we've done that and we're reviewing it. So I think we can successfully say that's done. Fill key staff. I'm sorry, are there any objections to that? Fill key staff positions. I'm suggesting amending this to complete the organizational review with a December 2021 date. Mr. Castleman has already plans in place to provide us with the second phase of the organizational review, and I think the date you had intended to do that by the end of this year. Is that true, Mr. Castleman? Any objections to that? Go ahead.
On our organizational chart, we still have 2 administrative type assistant positions that are empty. When will we be looking at filling those?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we have one position that's not filled. That's in the clerk's economic development area. We also have a manager of approvals that has been filled. The position is not started yet. Start date is April the 19th. Very, very anxious to get that position filled. So one position outstanding at this point in time.
And did we not budget for some sort of IT, enhanced IT? Was that a position or was that?
I through you, Mr. Mayor. When that issue was brought up, I think it was brought up through a notice of motion or motion, can't recall exactly.
Through budget.
Or through budget process. I think what I had suggested is that let's take our time and do it right. We knew that we're going to get on with the organizational review. The organizational review was going to deal with 3 particular departments, one of which is the fire department, one of which is the parks and recreational department, and the third of which is the finance department. So within the finance department, that's where IT is taking care of. So I wanted to have a fulsome discussion with the finance area and the rest of the senior staff to understand exactly what our needs are, and then not bring you a willy-nilly recommendation for an ad hoc situation. I want to have a fulsome discussion and get it right. And so I caution council about doing something on an interim basis before we had a chance to understand exactly what our needs are.
Understood. So that will come forward with the org review at the end of the year. Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor LeBlanc.
Thank you, Your Worship. Well, for the IT position, I was sent the program to download for training from one of the staff members in here, and I tried and I tried and I tried. I can't do it. Councillor Tadman tried and she couldn't download it, and other people tried. I haven't given it to Linda Whitterfield or to Mark Bateman to try to download it yet. But if we had an IT staff, I could come in here and I could have had it downloaded and start my training that was sent. And I've been trying for about a week and a half. It bounces my password. It likes it, then it doesn't like it. It keeps me out. So different programs in here could be fixed. So those are the things that, you know, I shouldn't be going to the director of financing to finance to get my computer fixed all the time. I know she's very gracious with it, or our clerk helping me out with it all the time because it bounces me out. So those are some of the things, because we're still going to have those issues. It's not just for staff. It's also for council that needs to do these programs, and we should be able to have it here or do a repair. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bateman.
I didn't catch, thank you. Did you say we were going to be doing an org track review down the road at some point again?
Phase
So I indicated to council some time ago that I would be completing the organizational review phase 2 for the 3 outstanding departments commencing next month.
Go ahead.
Just because when I look at it, and I know we're talking about filling the position, as this community grows and has grown quite a bit, and we've always run with one bylaw officer, and we're probably double the population since we've had one bylaw officer. And when we're talking task force and bike lanes and trails, that creates more, because I drive down Yonge Street on the way to Spring Valley School every day, and every day those bike lanes that are already there are plugged up. So as we grow and we add
With illegal
stuff,
parking.
yeah,
That
is probably going to be a key position that we're going to have to look at some point.
So we did budget for enhanced bylaw enforcement this year, and I'm not sure what operationally we've done with that, but I suspect that as the frost comes out of the ground, we'll be looking at doing something from a contract point of view. But I don't know that for a fact. I don't think you and I have actually had that discussion, Mr. Castleman. I'm just making assumptions again.
We have not had that discussion, but I think you're absolutely on the right track.
Thank you. Councillor Tadman.
Thank you. Maybe this is a good time to bring it up. I was talking to an employee yesterday in the park, and she said in the budget for Ontario from May till September, Monday through Thursday is going to be free. You don't have to have a day pass, which...
To the provincial park.
Yeah, which we had so much problems last year with people parking everywhere, and that whole causeway was a disaster until we got no parking. And people couldn't get out down by the boat launch, people that owned their properties there, because people would just pull in and block their driveways. So further to what Councillor Bateman was saying, I think this summer we're definitely going to need some extra help. And definitely when we get talking about Sunday hunting, that's going to be another area. How do we patrol something like that? And I don't want to discuss that any further at the moment, but I do think that
I think that would be a good question to bring up when we do debate the Sunday gun hunting.
Absolutely.
I look forward to that.
I bet you do. So do I.
Councillor Bunny, you had a question?
I'm going to go back to the IT. The IT for person was a notice of motion that was put in by me, seconded by the deputy mayor, and it was approved by this council that an IT would be there. It was also put into the budget, but it was a notice of motion that was passed by council because I was the mover. The deputy mayor was the seconder. Okay.
Thank you for that, Councillor Bateman.
I just wanted to follow up when I was mentioning about the parking and stuff. That's no indication. This is not Alan. He can't be everywhere all at once. It's just people all over parking where they're not supposed to be. One person can't be expected to.
And that's exactly what council recognized when we added enhanced bylaw enforcement to the budget. Absolutely not. That's why we need help. And thank you, Mr. Castleman, for letting us know how you plan to roll that out. The next one is hold. Everyone okay if we move on? Hold team building sessions with the municipal team, and I'm suggesting we change that to continue to provide educational opportunities for council and staff, and we put that deadline is ongoing. Is everyone okay with that? The next one is create staff positions to aid with strategic and legislative pressures. I'm going to suggest that we take that off because it should be, in theory, dealt with through the completed organizational review. Everyone comfortable with that? Prepare facilities condition assessment. September 2021 should be the date, I think. Probably sooner than that, right? But September will be for sure. Any objections, council? Update the asset management plan. Staff have suggested July of this year. Is that, go ahead, Director Whitfield.
Through you, Mayor. The province has now announced that they've extended the deadline for that, which gives us the opportunity to have our facilities assessment done first before we complete the asset management plan and have a report that includes all assets and levels of service. So
Fair enough. What's your suggestion?
We have an extra year, so I would suggest that we delay this until March 2022, please.
Council, okay? All right. Anything anybody wants to discuss or add under that strategy? This might be the right place if we want to talk about provide cost assumptions for capital and operational items in the strategic plan, which was brought up by Councillors Anderson and Bateman. Is that what you want to see? Those are my words around that, by the way. Yeah.
No, I definitely want to see it because we haven't talked about other large projects, and we don't need to have the staff going and doing heavy duty. Like I'm saying, we see what's going on when they build a new fire hall in Trent Hills, what their costs are involved. There's an estimate. We can use the same estimate. Fire hall, we haven't even nailed that yet, and that's coming up. We talked about 2 years, whatever. But we can get a pretty good idea. And I think the chief also has a couple of his own ideas we haven't heard about totally yet. And I know it's also in our rec plan. We're talking about, well, I can talk about it because it's on your map. Having a possible fire hall in the recreation area, which I don't agree with. But anyhow, so that's why we need to tie the rec in. What are we doing with the rec when you have a fire hall in the middle of the plan? So a cost. So if the fire hall is, I don't want to pick numbers, but it's for our purposes. It's not for the necessary something that we're reaching out to the public for their opinion on whether we want it. If it's in need, it needs to be done. Where's the best place for it? That could take some time to establish. And we're talking about lands for recreation. We're talking about lands for fire halls, possibly. The Y was a great idea. I can go on and on, but we're talking about medical center. I know. But but the medical center is something that we need to for the future, 5 years out, maybe. People want to get their blood done. They want to get this. Maybe we should have what's the name of the place in Trenton that does your blood, right? Maybe these are things that we need to be getting an idea what the costs were and then break it down into where you're going to go with it, just like a budget. People get afraid of, oh, you're spending all this money. We haven't spent a cent yet, but we're moving ahead and we're planning. And that's one thing a lot of councils don't do. They don't plan. And then all of a sudden the next council sits there and they put their strategic plan together. So I'm just saying we need to get at it. So
Deputy Mayor, I'm going to let you speak because you objected to this concept, and I'd like to hear the other side of the argument.
You don't want to know the cost, but I do.
I don't think that's a fair comment. Deputy Mayor?
Number one,
Deputy Mayor.
This council is planning. That's what this is called, a strategic plan. So we do plan. And I was part of the previous council where if staff put a price on something and it ended up being different, it was not very much fun. And in a year and a half, we're going to have another council. And if we go and have staff spend all this time, because no, it's not as simple as saying, oh, well, there's cost this, so we'll put this in here. It doesn't work that way. So obviously, as these things come up, we need to get costs, but we're going to need to get real costs at that time. But to put estimates, someone could go along and put a bunch of dollar figures in here to make people happy, but I don't think it's what we need. And I don't think, with all the things we need to do, I don't think that's something that we need to have staff work on in detail. We'll deal with it as it comes. These are our goals, where we want to go. When we get to that time, we're going to figure out what the cost is, how to raise those funds. We don't know what funding there will be at that time. Some of them are years out. So I don't think it's necessary. I think it's great that we're working on the strategic plan every year and we're updating it. This is a good thing. And I think it's a good process, but I don't think we need to add that to it.
Councillor Tadman.
I totally agree. They say build it, they will come. And if you're thinking today that you could estimate, say for instance, a fire hall / with the paramedics 10 years down the road, you're really dreaming. So what's the point of wasting staff's time, my time, anybody else's time, even talking that way? We don't even know for sure if we're going to move in that direction. We may, for instance, think that we can put money into our present facilities. And, you know, that dream may be 25 years down the road. So it makes no sense to me to put a price on anything at this point.
Councillor Bateman?
The other thing I was going to speak to, I wasn't really looking for a price on the build because I know that changes. I'm looking more at, you know, maybe it could fall under the task force, and I'll focus on the aquatic center. That task force can find out, because if you ask everybody, do you want A, they might want it until they find out how much it's going to cost to. So look out, because the builds, that's going to change. I'm talking if we build one, regardless of how much it costs to build, what's the estimate to actually run that? Because we talked about reaching out to the residents on different things and getting their opinion. They'll say, yeah, we want that. But if they don't know how much it's going to cost year after year after year, regardless of how much it costs to build, they might change their mind quickly. Like, I don't think it'd be too difficult to reach out and find the operational cost estimated of if you put in an aquatic center. What's it going to impact everybody on their taxes from now until the end of time?
Councillor Tadman?
Yes, well, that's totally different than what. No, he's not. No, you're not, because he's talking about how do you operate something after it's built. No kidding. Anyways, can we move forward?
Well, let's, we can, if I find out what everybody wants to do.
Councillor LeBlanc had a good point. He's also looking for shovel ready. If we're talking, if we're going to do a fire hall, right? Come on, and I'm going to ask you to follow up on this.
For 3 years, for the time I've been on council, every time we come here, I always look at shovel ready. Something designed, you got to design something, pick one of these or pick a couple of them and let's have them shovel ready. Then when we have them shovel ready, then you can come with the cost of what it's going to be, and you have something to tender. If you're going to split 40, and 20 with the municipality for taxes, with government money to build something, like some of these arenas and some of the stuff, it's always been shovel ready and ready to go.
So that is a different discussion, though.
But anyway,
you
have to have the cost.
What Councillor Anderson, so there are really three concepts out on the floor right now. One is capital, assumptions of cost for capital, assumptions of cost for operational, and getting shovel-ready projects implemented, which will be done once we provide staff with our strategic direction and deadlines. Staff will, based on those deadlines, will prepare shovel-ready projects and designs. So, do we want to include a strategy to get staff to go out and get capital project cost assumptions based on the strategy that we're putting in place?
If you don't want to look at 2 years out or 3 years out, then what are we going to do in the next immediate? What's immediate? What's our priority? Talk about the ice surface. That's why process up. That's why the arena, either we're going to do $500,000 before in the arena, the roof you're talking about. This is what brought all this up. So if that is priority, and it's not my priority, but if it's a priority to make sure that rink is still there, so we should be looking at cost estimates, shovel ready, and operational costs now.
Mr. Miller. Mr. Miller.
My thought with the task force would be part of that task force would be to bring you back as part of their report what you would be spending on a facility, what a new facility would look like, type of thing, what it would include, what the costs would be, and what the operational costs would be. That's normally what task force.
Everybody comfortable with that? Good, thank you. We're moving forward. We know. We've heard. Develop a robust economic development and tourism framework. The first goal, continue our commitment to regional economic development tourism. I'd like to strike the deadline and just write ongoing in there. I think that should be an ongoing issue, ongoing project. Advocate, anybody object to that? Advocate for and seek opportunities to help provide stable, reliable, affordable internet services. Again, I think we should put ongoing in there because right now we know there's money coming available, but we don't know what the deadline will be in terms of when we can finally roll this out. Any objections to that? Create an economic development committee with terms of reference, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's done. Everyone comfortable with marking that off as complete? Develop a community improvement plan for brownfield remediation. I suggest adding to that, so it would read brownfield remediation, affordable social housing developments, and downtown revitalization opportunities. So that our CIP is inclusive of all of those opportunities we know we need in the community. Councillor Rowley.
That's exactly where I would like to see the CIP go as well. Could be opportunities for more than just remediation and, helping with the social housing issues and also with the downtown revitalization that we don't lose, that we keep Main Street what it is, at least.
Thank you. Anyone object to adding those to that strategy? And Mr. Walsh, I had a little note here saying it should be for the end of 2021. Does that timeline work for you?
Yes, it does, Mayor.
Is council comfortable with that timeline? Councillor LeBlanc.
Through you, Your Worship, just went through one thing up. When we're looking at the downtown, I agree with the timing, but one of the complaints that you hear all the time is the lack of parking. Should we add to find parking for the downtown for our businesses?
Every time I hear the words lack of parking, I take a tour around downtown Brighton. The last time this happened, I found 56 open parking spots on a Saturday, busy Saturday. 56 open parking spots. We don't have a lack of parking in Brighton. And it's free. Come to Brighton to shop. It's free to park. Councillor Tadman.
Just to add to that, we did provide an extra parking lot right out the back here. So there's lots of parking, but people want to park out in front of the store they want to shop in. And sorry, for most people, you could walk.
Maybe I shouldn't do this publicly, but I used to joke when we moved back to Brighton, having lived in Toronto, that my fellow Brighton citizens would drive to the CIBC and then still have business to do at the Royal Bank. So they would then drive to the Royal Bank from CIBC. And that was a fairly typical Brighton thing to do back in the 80s. But having lived in Toronto, if you found a parking spot, you'd live there. You'd park there all day long and march around and take the subway other places. So I think, given the fact that we do have a lot of free parking in the community, people still feel comfortable wanting to park right outside the store they want to shop in. I get it. It's a convenience, but it's also good to park and go for a walk downtown. And I'm doing that more and more because I'm noticing I need to. Councillor Rowley.
Thank you. I think we have lots of parking, but I would like to see a little consideration giving to the quality of our parking lots. We have a lot of, I don't know that they're all municipally owned, but I think we need to see if we can fix some of the really, really, really big potholes and some of the, some of them could swallow a small car. So, and I don't know that it's all the responsibility, as I say, to the municipality. It's not all municipal parking, but I think we need to kind of deal with those who do own pavement in the downtown and see if we can fix. I'm not. I took the van.
Okay,
pothole.
we're way off topic. And,
no, not really. It's still parking.
Well, yeah, but by talking about parking, we're way off topic because what we should be talking about is community improvement planning. I know I let it happen, and I'm trying to rein it back in. So December 2021 for the CIPs that include all of those things we talked about. Does anyone want to include? Councillor Bateman.
I was just going to add when we're talking about community improvement, because we touched on it earlier when we were talking about when Deputy Mayor brought up making it more walkable and bikeable. I think somewhere down the road, we're going to have to look at what do you add on when you make it more walkable and bikeable. When you look at the places like Toronto and other cities, they have put in places, because if you make this more bikeable, we've talked about parking spots, you need somewhere to put your bikes, and there's very few spots to put bikes. So when we enhance that, we need to enhance the other, and I think it would be great, because there is already people more biking and walking. When I go for a walk, they're all over. But we're going to encourage them to bike and advertise it and get them out there.
Is that something
That's
we
the
would,
parking spots we're going to need.
is that something we would include in a CIP for downtown revitalization, Mr. Walsh? Oh, Mr. Castleman.
The answer is no. If we want to encourage biking in the downtown core, you put some strategically located bike racks.
Is that something the Trails Committee, who's looking at biking, would be mandated to consider? Yeah, okay. So when we're creating the terms of reference for the Trails Committee, please remember to put biking concerns in there, like bike stands and so on. Go ahead, Mr. Miller.
I would like to just let council know that there is a county cycling master plan that was adopted about 6 years ago now, that does look at our downtown area somewhat, as well as all the other.
So
we can use that as well with our committee.
The Trails Committee could look at what the county adopted sometime last term of council, I think. Anything else under the economic development tourism framework? So we are moving on to, sorry, just for the record, Councillor Tadman has left the chambers at 8:40 p.m. Moving on to build a workable and livable community. The first is support ongoing heritage initiatives. That's ongoing, and I think we should leave that as is. Does anyone object? Next one is update the comprehensive zoning bylaw. We can mark that as complete. Develop planning policies that require developers to build, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That was included, those were included in our OP update. Is that correct, Mr. Walsh?
Yes, Mayor, there are some applicable policies in the updated official plan.
So are we comfortable saying that that's done? Yeah. Any objections? Update the official plan, including affordable housing. That was also done. Anybody object to that? Enhance public transit. This has been done. We have enhanced it in this term of council. I'm just wondering if we want to leave it on here because there are enhancements, still more enhancements we could make. You want ongoing, or do you want to put a date for further enhancement? We'd have to have an idea what we want to enhance if we put a date. So ongoing. Everybody comfortable with ongoing? Go ahead.
I was also just wanted to point out, because I think we had asked Mr. Hagerman to promote or put out there, and I think he did. It's on the website. We all received the email. So everybody, well, not everybody, those that read it, and if it's gone out to the community, but that's the part of the ongoing as well, because not everybody would have seen that. Just keep pushing it out there that that's available.
On the website, and he pushed it out through social media. I saw that as well. Mr. Hagerman, do you have any comments? I can see you, but no one else can. So you can just nod or shake your head, whatever you want to do.
No, it's all good.
You're good? He's good. He gave me the thumbs up. Thank you. Prepare a downtown traffic flow that moves traffic and makes pedestrian safety a priority, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So some work has been done and good work. I get a lot of good comments about the new pedestrian flow downtown. There is still more work that can be done east and west. So is everyone comfortable leaving this on? And if so, what date do we put for that? So should we leave it on as a strategy to enhance making pedestrian safety a priority and including beautifying the areas? Everyone wants to leave that on. Councillor Bateman?
I think it should stay on there, and it should be ongoing, because as we evolve and develop, again, I don't want to keep bringing up the bikes, but I should keep adding the pedestrian safety is not something you put an end date on. So to me, it's an ongoing thing.
We can do that. Ongoing. Everyone comfortable with that? Councillor Anderson? Yeah, I just did it. I just said et cetera, et cetera. I mean, we're going to leave it as is. Right. We're going to leave it written as is. And for the record, Councillor Tadman returned to the chamber at 8:42. Facilitate the redevelopment of the former gas station, et cetera, et cetera. It says May 2022. There's rumors that there may be some sales on that property. Are we comfortable with May 2022 as the date? And if it sells and is developed on its own, then the problem gets solved. Everyone comfortable with that? Identify natural heritage assets, October 2022. Everybody comfortable with that? Councillor Tadman?
Isn't that what your heritage committee does all the time?
Deputy Mayor?
I believe these are natural heritage assets. I don't know that they're necessarily, I'm not sure that that refers to heritage buildings.
Yeah, it refers to natural heritage assets. Mr. Walsh, do you want to chime in just a little bit?
Yes, Mayor. Yeah, staff would welcome some direction from council on the difference between of what's meant here in terms of natural heritage assets. The Heritage Committee does deal with the built cultural heritage assets. So we have about 9 designated properties, and there's a big inventory of other properties that the committee would like to follow up on and investigate further about potentially designating as heritage properties as well. And the official plan does make reference to also investigating heritage conservation district, those sorts of things. But the natural heritage would be a separate initiative, and the Heritage Committee itself would not necessarily deal with that. So yeah, from my own perspective, it would be helpful to understand where council's interests lie in this particular item.
Deputy Mayor?
I think natural heritage assets refers to even what Councillor Tadman was speaking before about the access to this beach that we have, and like these natural assets that we have that we've had for years. And I think identifying them and making them known. I believe that was the concept behind this.
Right.
So we kind of spoke to it earlier.
Yeah, so it would be tying in things like our conservation areas, which aren't owned by the municipality, but
Yes.
are natural assets that the community can access.
Proctor
The
Park, all
Willenroth
those-
Woods, Proctor Park, even Presqu'île, the public access is at Presqu'île. Those are the kinds of things we're talking about, because at the end of the day, the community recognizes that our lakeshore is by and large developed by private residential properties. So there should be other opportunities for the community to enjoy nature, even in our relatively downtown area. Does that successfully answer your question?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. The official plan has a natural heritage component as well, and the county is adopting a natural heritage system. And I'm sure council had a different line of thinking than what the official plan is really getting at. But yeah, I can beg and borrow from that as well in terms of also taking inventory of existing resources.
Thank you, Councillor Tadman.
Thank you. The Heritage Committee has worked a long time on the built heritage. And I think different people know of different areas that any resident could utilize. And also, I think that the digital archives have bought a drone, and they will be doing all kinds of taking photos of the areas. So is this supposed to be a planning commitment, or is this supposed to be, or should it be a combination of heritage, digital, and planning?
Well, under the current strategic plan, the responsible department is our planning department.
But they seem to be extremely busy.
I would agree.
So why put that just totally on planning then?
Do you have a suggestion, Mr. Walsh?
Through the mayor, I'm thinking that once we have added staff resources on the 19th, I have a person who's really eager to get right at it. And also, and not to volunteer Mr. Hagerman's availability, but perhaps the end game here would be to promote the natural heritage assets that we have and to promote the community at large for its natural amenities. So that might be one of the goals through this. I suspect that we promote the quality of life of within the municipality of Brighton. So that might be part of the overall program here.
Are you comfortable continuing to be the lead as the responsible team, so to speak?
Yeah, I'm comfortable with that. And together with, I know Rafik is also kind of at capacity. So it might be a mapping exercise. We may have to borrow some assets perhaps from other places for that, but I think we can figure that out.
Thank you. Anyone else? Go ahead, Councillor Bateman.
Just to add to that, when they get to that point when they're identified, and if Mr. Hageman gets involved to promote, is that something that can fall under when you move back up under the economic development and tourism, where you involve them? Because you don't want to just promote it within our municipality. We want our residents to know, but we also want people to come here and visit these natural attractions. So I think if you engage those other ones when you get to that point to promote it beyond our borders.
I think I see Mr. Hageman nodding his head in agreement to that. Is that what I'm seeing? He got a big smile on his face. We're good. The next strategic item, if everyone's comfortable moving on, is advocate for rail service stop. And my note suggests that maybe we should move this up a little bit, as I've heard, and it's anecdotal from my chair anyway, that VIA is consulting with regard to the lakeshore line because they do have plans to try to get a high-speed line from Montreal, Ottawa, Peterborough, Toronto. That's the intended route, which would free up service along the lakeshore line and maybe be able to add some smaller stops. So is everyone comfortable moving this up from 2025 to a little bit sooner so that we don't lose out on opportunities? Deputy Mayor?
We've already lost the location, but.
Well, yeah, but the railroad track goes right across the municipality, so.
Yeah, but if it's going to stop, it should stop there again.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm up for moving that up so that we can even investigate whether that's even a possibility.
Right. Thank you.
There's always negotiations, right? Even
Right.
with the current owner.
Councillor Bateman?
I was going to ask the rest, is there any appetite to add to this, not just rail service, but bus service as well? Because I know under COVID, you haven't had as much traveling or any, but when you want to catch a bus now, if you're going on a cruise or anywhere that you're going, you drive to Quinte West, and theirs actually is not in an ideal location where it is on Front Street where there's no thing. And I think we used to have a bus stop here at one time. I can't remember if it was called Judson's or Ready Chef at the time. So is that something that we could put as part of that rail/bus service?
I'm happy to add that. Deputy Mayor?
I think this is all about getting a rail stop back in Brighton. I think this initiative, I understand what you're saying. We did talk about that in the previous one, did we not?
Under transit?
Yeah. That would be, I mean, a bus service, more enhanced bus service would be great, but I think this was really talking about getting the train stopping in Brighton again.
No, we don't. We could add advocate for bus service stop as a separate strategy, and I think that makes a lot of sense. Is everybody comfortable adding that as a strategy? And we've got the responsible team is planning for both of those, or for that anyway, for the rail service. I'm not sure if that really makes a lot of sense at the end of the day, but it may have been added because when we first started this process, we didn't have a CAO. So is that really an admin function?
The reality is that who we assign today, the responsibility for these tasks will be dictated by priorities. So in due course, I'll shift around those who are responsible or reassign particular tasks based on the priorities at hand. So I'm not terribly concerned about it.
So I'm changing it to admin. What do we want for the date for rail service as an advocacy? Now? I would suggest now. I would suggest, like, what is today? June? I would say June as a June 2021. Hang on. And then let's go down to bus service stop. What would you suggest as a deadline date for advocacy for that, Councillor Bateman?
I'd like to see now as well. I don't think that's a complicated process to, it would be finding the location where they could go would be the most difficult, but placing the phone call to see if they're willing.
So I'm going to put June 2021 for that, and we'll see how well that floats. Councillor Anderson.
Have you heard anything through the government where VIA it's still considering coming to Coburg? Not VIA, sorry, the GO train. It's pushed partly to almost to Clarington or some, and there was talk about it coming to Coburg. If it were to come to Coburg, and that might come a lot sooner than the 10 years it would be to put another rail line in, and I know we need to start now to put our name out there, but with VIA. But with the GO train, I always had a thought that GO service, the bus like they're using in other areas now, Trenton, Brighton, Coburg. If you've heard anything through the county, or that's something you could talk to the county about, that type of service going that way, rather than us going that way to go that way. Like you say, you've got to go to Trenton to go that way.
The county did undertake a study early in this term, at the end of last term, beginning of this term, with Metrolinx and for enhanced GO services into the county. The consultation was just to get the numbers so that we could advocate for it. And the numbers don't really pan out at the end of the day, unfortunately, because the numbers only show those who would be willing to use it today. And it's hard to plan for tomorrow based on those who would be willing to use it today. But that consultation did happen.
And things are changing now with people working from home, and so they're moving here and setting up their home office, and with the whole idea of not going back to Toronto.
I don't disagree with you.
And so the idea of hopping on a GO train to go back to Toronto, it may be a long time off now too. So, but I just throw that out there. I think, you got the car parks at each individual municipality. I'm not sure how feasible it would, but they've done their study, so I guess it's not feasible.
The numbers don't shake out. I'm not suggesting that it's not feasible or that it wouldn't get used. I'm just suggesting that statistically,
someday
Metrolinx isn't buying it. That's all I'm going to say.
It would be nice if they did, but someday
I agree.
They might.
So moving right along, I'm also going to suggest adding prepare a secondary plan under the OP for future development areas. I know we're going down that road anyway, but it would be good to include in their strategic plan because it is an important strategy and one we keep talking about for secondary planning purposes. Is everyone okay with that? And that would be our planning, or will be our planning department. Mr. Walsh, when do you anticipate that to come to fruition?
Mayor, is scheduled to be a 2-year project, so 23.
And end of 23, you figure?
Yes. Hearing some things tonight, that scope might expand, and we can always add more to it, but currently it's a 2-year project.
So for now, December 2023. Right. Everyone comfortable with that? I'm also going to suggest adding identify available lands and property for social housing opportunities in partnership with Northumberland County. We keep hearing about this. There's a notice of motion we'll be discussing at the next council meeting, and Councillor Anderson did bring this forward at the last strategic planning session. Are we okay adding that to the strat plan? I think it's important that we identify the lands anyway. And Mr. Castleman, the responsible department, would that be the planning department?
I would say yes.
And I have a fall 2021 suggestion in my notes. I'm looking to staff to see if that's doable.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm just making some copious notes of all of the add-ons to this year's work plan. So I need a little bit of time to digest because we now have about 5 or 6 items that you've pushed into the next 3 or 4 months. So that obviously is going to have an impact on other work plan initiatives that we had in mind. So I need a little bit of time to digest that and discuss amongst my team to determine what implications it's going to have.
Okay, so I'll look to council. What date do we want to put in there? Understanding that you think it's a priority. So okay, so what date would you like to prioritize it for? Councillor Rowley.
I would like to consider some of this during budget season as well. That if we, so if we can, I'm assuming we can get an inventory of lands that the municipality already owns.
So that's what we're talking about. We're talking about getting the inventory of lands. So when would you like to see that come to council?
Well,
October 2021?
yes.
All right. Anyone
Mr.
object?
Tadman.
Anyone object
Mr.
to October 2021? It's a bookmark in a strategic plan. It's not written in stone. These aren't the tablets coming down from the mountain, right? If it gets missed, staff will let us know it got missed and when the updated opportunity will be to bring it forward, right?
But I think to get a list of municipally owned properties, should it take that long?
I don't know the answer to that question. So
I
do you want it sooner than October?
I would just like a list of land and then we can talk about stuff later.
Councillor Tadman?
Thank you, Mayor. You suggested at the last strategic plan that you knew of some land.
Microphone, please.
Most of us do know bits and pieces of land that municipality owns. So I'm just saying.
Not
I'd just like to
necessarily,
see-
yeah, but staff doesn't necessarily know. And so what I would like to suggest or encourage, is that a better word? That we get in touch with whoever happens to be responsible in staff for getting this to us.
As I suggested, I would maybe help with that.
You're a good girl.
If members of council are aware of municipally owned lands that I think the staff are not aware of, please contact the CAO like tomorrow. I've got October 2021 written down. Is everyone comfortable with that? They want a different date. Mr. Bateman, Councillor Bateman.
Yeah, no, I'm comfortable with that. Obviously, the sooner the better, but you're not going to build a structure overnight anyways. But the sooner, and then when you can identify the land, because you want it to line up with the county's strategic plan as well that goes out to 2023. And there's parts in their strategic plan that actually need to be reviewed, but that's another matter because in their strategic plan, there's supposed to be quarterly updates on that. And we would fall under that because they're the ones that run the affordable housing. So ours has to work in conjunction with theirs, but theirs has to work and there's some holes in it because they're not doing whether they're doing them or not, they're not being posted. So one has to go hand in hand with the other.
Fair enough. Councillor Anderson?
Just from the last meeting, you had mentioned that the county was interested in working with us and going ahead with that type of housing. So with that, and it's fairly fresh, I think we need to strike when the fire's hot. So I think that even if we can identify a potential site or something that then we can enter into some valid discussion with the county, looking for other opportunities, but at least start with something. If it's hot now, it may not be later. So I'd like to see when there's a fresh opportunity, you might as well grab it.
So October 2021?
Yeah,
good.
As far as I'm concerned.
So the next I've noted, suggest adding develop service delivery policies to streamline commercial industrial land use planning applications. I confess, I grabbed that from a note I made and I don't remember who said it or what the intent might have been. Mr. Castleman.
So I think the intent was the discussion around planning and making it easier to have a checklist and or a protocol in place. So if John Q. Citizen walks into the planning department, says, I want a building permit, I want a severance, here's a checklist that you have to follow. That's, I think, the intention. I think certainly as we get staffed up, that's going to be an operational item, and we're going to do that in the normal course.
Does council want to include that as part of a strategic plan, or do we want to let staff ramp up and provide that policy? Councillor LeBlanc.
Yeah, it should be to your worship. It's one of the things that we found talking with some of the citizens over the years, that when it comes to zone planning, basically they do one thing and then they found out there was the next. If they were given a pro forma that tells them that this is what you're going to expect it to do, but also it's a pro forma, it should be a day-to-day operation that they give to anybody that wants to do a severance in the town. It's different than a big, large subdivision. It's just an individual lot they want to build, or 2 lots.
Thank you, Councillor Rowley.
Which maybe your line should have included residential also. I mean, you just have commercial industrial.
Yeah.
When I read that, I was kind of reminded that we had talked about.
So how about we remove commercial industrial altogether and just leave streamlined land use planning?
That's right. And we can
application?
just leave that to staff. I don't think it needs to stay in the plan.
So I've got one person saying it should be in the strategic plan and one person saying leave it alone. You said leave it alone? Don't put it in the plan. Anyone want to include it in the plan? Leave it out? We look forward to staff making that happen. Anything else for build a workable and livable community before we move on to the next strategy? Next strategy is support fire and rescue services. The first goal is complete a comprehensive, et cetera, fire master plan. I think we need to seek staff's input for a reasonable timeline for when that review can happen. So I'll look to Chief Smith to borrow a microphone.
Through you, Mayor. Through you, the Mayor. We're going to be doing the talking with the CAO about the people going forward. So with that, we're looking at finishing off our fire master plan. That's basically the only outstanding part is the people portion for that 2013 plan.
So when would you anticipate completing that review?
Probably by the fall, September.
This year? So would you be comfortable if we put September 2021?
Yes, sir.
Council comfortable with 2021, September 2021? Go ahead.
This will just be a revision of the 2013 fire plan, master plan, right?
Correct.
And maybe I should bring it up now because it's always brought up. Anybody south of the tracks always wants to know why we don't have a fire hall south of the tracks, and it's getting more and more that if you prorated the population above and below, I think we're winning now below the tracks. So in your master plan, I can't remember if that was even in there at all.
It was mentioned, but not as a strategic point.
Right. And I don't know what the rest of council feels like, but when you think about how much is developed south of the tracks, and especially anybody that's this side of Bowes Road, the east side, they automatically go down Bowes Road and look after people there. But west of that, there's a lot of homes all up through, and then all the Lakeshore, Pressdale, everywhere. So would council even consider now even maybe thinking about having something there? I don't, I'm not pushing for this. I'm just saying we're always asked, why don't we have one? And some people feel very nervous that we don't have. Because if, as we know, if Prince Edward Street is blocked by trains, and I know they they get the notice to go Bowes Road, but still that's a long ways around. So is it something that we need to talk further or not? I don't know.
Councillor Anderson.
I agree with Councillor Tadman there. Something we've talked about, and now with the development and the future not that distant future. When you think about it, it's probably 2 or 3 years out, and we're going to see a real impact down there. I did speak to the chief, our present chief, about it, and the previous chief. We weren't quite ready before, but when you think of, and we should see some stats. I remember the previous chief giving us some stats on time and number of calls south of the, I'll use south of the tracks, how many calls north to the 401, all that. So I know you've probably got all that right now, and I think that's very important. If you even look at this year, the amount of traffic of our services going south to different types of calls, and they're not all fire, and most of them aren't fire. And they are need for the service. If there was I think you referred to it maybe as a 2-bay type of a department, and I know there's staff that live down there, but and so you could staff it with on-call type service. The idea is to get the first vehicles there, no matter what type they are, get them there first, and then the troops come maybe later. But I agree with you, Councillor Tadman. It should be, and it probably should be if it's going to be close to anywhere, it would probably be on the west side. Maybe it can be even the area could be discussed when we talk about the developments on that side. If we look for some favorable land through the developer that's building there to assist us in a location as well. But I think that we should hear from the chief on this just briefly, and what you think under today, what's happening this way it is right now. But the demand is getting greater and greater, and that bridge we talk about, John Street, we haven't talked about it. We're talking about the other side of town, and we're talking about John Street, and look how much that's going to cost and how far we're going to go there. So I think a small fire hall down there and service it, and then you would hire staff that live in that area that have to be immediately serviceable to that area, and that's an operation thing. So I've said too much, but I think it's really important.
Councillor Bateman.
I'm looking forward to the report because I think it's got to factor in several things, because we've already talked that there's somewhere down the road a possible new fire hall, so you'd have to have that in the right location. But you got to remember, no matter where you put the fire hall, whether it's north or south of the track, depending on where the fire breaks out, you now have equipment on the wrong side of the tracks. So that's all going to have to be taken into consideration. If you had something down there and the fire's in the north end, now all you...
No, not the main fire hall.
It doesn't matter if it's the main, if you need the equipment, it doesn't matter what side of the tracks you're trapped,
okay,
right?
so
you got to look at
Councillor Bateman has the floor.
So I'm sure he'll capture that all in the report, and how often traffic is delayed, response time from the different areas. I wouldn't want to jump to build something down there because we want something if it's not the right location. So I'd rather find out where the north or south, where they say it should be, if that's what we need.
Councillor LeBlanc.
I tend to agree with Councillor Tadman and Councillor Anderson. It doesn't have to be a full fire station. It could be a satellite station over there. One thing I'd like to know from the planner is the condominium, the 6-story condominium, is that still on track for being built on the greenhouse property? Still developing, looking at it?
I don't think we've seen a land use planning application come before council with that regard, so I wouldn't want to give any information
No problem. I didn't know.
over into the public about a private application. Councillor Rowley.
Is the fire?
No, Councillor Rowley, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. I guess I would like to hear more as far as historicals in response time, because to me that seemed to be, that's more of the concern that we need to know. Do we respond within whatever the provincial or the mandated response times are for any, regardless of fire or medical? So maybe at some point we can just get that in a chief's report as well. That's all I wanted.
Thank you. I see the chief making some notes. Deputy Mayor.
I think we're discussing what we want to see instead of whether or not we just want to add it to this
I agree.
strategic plan. So, you know, if it's important, then we add it and then we work on getting the information we need.
So the only thing I'll say is I have not discussed a substation south of the tracks with the current fire chief, but I have had conversations with 3 former fire chiefs who have all told me that the concern is real in terms of getting fire vehicles south of the tracks, obviously, but the issue is finding the volunteer fire force who live south of the tracks that could attend that station. I think we're all aware of the reasonably aware of the demographic that lives with the exception of the deputy mayor, that lives south of the CNCP rail lines, and you know, and who do we draw from in the demographic that want to be a volunteer firefighter without having to press them into service, which we can't do, right? So we have slim pickings in the what I'll loosely refer to as the under 50 crowd, which I'm still in for another 3 weeks. So, well, life's hard. Life's hard. Oh, I'm not talking about you, Councillor Tadman. You could fight anything, I know, and have, no doubt. No doubt. So I've written construct a fire substation south of the rail line as a strategic goal. Is that something we want to add? Do we want to consider? I don't know how to word it off the top of my head. Mr. Castleman, you keep wanting to move your microphone, so I'm going to let you speak.
I just about jumped through my microphone.
I saw that.
Let's put the brakes on here just a little for a second. You would like staff to take a look at the strategic plan. You would like me to do an organizational review. In the normal course, I will go through a detailed analysis with the fire chief to understand what our needs are on a go-forward basis. And that will include station location, volunteers. Every decision that we make are based on statistics and risk analysis. And I've done this many times, as I'm sure the fire chief has done it many times. Let's bring you a professional opinion with respect to our risks and whether indeed a substation is required south of the tracks or not. I think all you have to do, from my perspective, is ask for an organizational review to be completed for the fire department, firstly. And secondly, have us take a look at the master plan and bring forward some recommendations associated with that master plan. I think full stop after that.
So we've already got a comprehensive review of the fire master plan. That's we're told that should be done in the fall of this year. So that's boxes checked. And your recommendation is to include complete fire services organizational review. Go ahead.
Earlier on, one of the strategic initiatives was to have me do an organizational review. So early on in our session, we said we're going to do that, phase 2 of the org review, which includes 3 departments, one of which happens to be the fire. So
that's going to get done as well.
Right.
And then we'll make some decisions around that.
Right.
Council comfortable with that? Okay. Moving right along. The next strategy is construct a combined new fire ambulance station. And my suggestion is we move this to 2023. And I only suggest this because of where things are at from a partnership point of view with the county's capital works, focused on a very large multi-million-dollar long-term care facility, but also because we haven't identified where. And until we as a municipality identify where that will be, there's no sense we can't even discuss this with the county, because it will be up to us to have the land. Councillor Rowley.
Thank you. I agree with that. However, once again, as far as the county is concerned, Brighton gets pushed back. I know we need to find the land, and I know if the county came to us sooner than later, we would probably put that on the list to get that done. But
So
just my message to the county is, once again, Thank you for pushing us back.
Okay, and I'm not speaking for the county when I say I'm sure the county would say, we're not pushing you back. We haven't heard from Brighton as to where you'd like your base to be. Period. Deputy Mayor.
Isn't the county coming to council in a few weeks? And usually when they come, we all sit quietly and we listen to them. We don't ask questions. So this time, let's ask questions.
There you go. A lot of people have, I saw. All right. Anyone else? So 2023, we're going to put December 2023 to push that out unless there's objections to that. Unless there's other objections to that. Plan for an overpass, underpass at John Street, Public Works, November 2026. Should we make this Public Works and Planning, and should we keep it at November 2026, members of council? Yes, leave it there, and Public Works and Planning. Go ahead, Mr. Parkinson.
Through your worship. The fire chief and I had a brief discussion yesterday, and I'd like to add on to this plan a connecting link from our industrial park to 64, which would facilitate a better response for a fire emergency in our industrial park. And it would also facilitate better trucking route than what we currently have from Loyalist Drive into the industrial park. And that's probably something we could put in this fall's budget as far as a preliminary design for potential construction in the near future. But it would be an important link to have, because currently the propane business that's down there has expanded quite a bit. So we're seeing at least one B train come in every day. So those 90-degree corners weren't really designed for that kind of trucking. So it would be nice to have a better connecting link for the industrial park that comes up from 64 and then enters just above lot 12 on that plan I distributed just before the meeting.
So if we add the words including a connecting link to County Road 64, does that work as a strategy?
Perhaps it would be better to have two different
Its own
goals.
strategy.
Yeah, because
so a separate strategy that says develop a connecting link.
Yeah, because it might be a little bit more attainable goal, given our budget constraints, to have that section built versus the overpass.
And you think you can have the design work done next year?
No, we can put it into the budget this fall to have the design work estimated to budget for construction.
So what deadline would you recommend?
I guess the design work could be done December of 2022.
So the strategy where we develop design of connecting link to County Road 64, Councillor LeBlanc.
Through your worship, there was a notice of motion. There was a motion put through and passed by council to connect County Road 64 to John Street with the bridge, go across from John to Georgina, go across to White Road to Telephone Road for connecting in traffic. That notice of motion was there, it was already approved, so I don't know why it has to go into the official plan.
Did that motion get approved, or did it get changed and merged with secondary planning?
No, the other one did, one I withdrew. Okay. I did not withdraw that one. That one's already there for you.
So that's a notice of motion, but it's good to have it as on the strategic plan as well.
I'd have to look into that because I have the same recollection as the mayor does, that it was pulled to be put into the secondary plan to determine the best path or route, but I'm not sure. We'd have to look into that.
The one from Price Street to Highway 30 was pulled.
Yeah,
it was from Price Street to Highway 30 was pulled.
Princess,
because the planner said that he was going to look at that in the secondary plan, and I pulled it. He was supposed to bring back something by the 15th of November, and then later on, the planner realized that he needed 170,000 to finish that strategic plan. The second motion was for Georgina Street to be punched through and go to the bridge and from Telephone and to County Road 64. That one was not pulled.
although supportive of the concept, 100% supportive of the concept. I like the idea. My recollection, Mr. Parkinson's recollection are the same, that it was to be included in secondary planning. But perhaps, Madam Clerk, you can work with Mr. Parkinson to verify that. And if you could let council know by email, that would be appreciated as well. Fair enough?
Fair enough, yeah.
So develop design of connecting link to County Road 64. Responsible team is Public Works. December 2022 is the deadline. Anything else? Go ahead.
Can I just, was there a study ever done or on putting a bridge or underpass and approximate cost or anything like that? I
Not
know
at
you
this
don't like that.
location.
Don't go there.
Don't go there?
Not at this location.
Not on Johnson? No?
Not at this location.
Okay. Okay, I just had a thought, and I'm not suggesting anything, I'm just putting it out there. What about just another crossing? You look at it, and it's rather flat. I know, and I talked to a couple of people tonight, the distance from Prince Edward Street to there, I don't know how far that is.
You mean another level crossing?
Just a level crossing
Yeah,
for the industrial
I
park.
can assure you the railroads would never let us do that.
They wouldn't?
No.
But they were
They
so,
want us to get rid of level crossings.
Well-
They won't let us add more.
well, I know they wanted to get rid of at Smithfield that.
They want to get rid of all of them. They don't want level crossings. Railroads will, Mr. Parkinson, would you agree that the railroads would never approve such a thing?
Through your worship, I don't know, to be honest. I've never approached the rail companies to see if they would be entertaining anything like that. I know their preference is to have an overpass or an underpass at the Prince Edward Street crossing, because that's what they deem as the highest safety risk to the public.
Yeah, well, I'm throwing it out there because it certainly would be a cost savings, and then you can go and put your fire hall somewhere down. But I'm just saying you for the industrial park purposes, and then what you were just talking about a moment ago just adds to that. But I bet you maybe it wasn't even thought of, or it would be ideal to have a bridge over there or an underpass. But I just know that ticket's going to be unless the railway wants to help pay for that.
Which they won't, Deputy Mayor.
Another level crossing isn't going to solve the issue. And the whole reason why we want an overpass in that is that it's always accessible. So that's the only reason why this is in here. It's for safety. And it has other, of course, benefits. Yeah, it's going to be a ton of money. And that's why it's in the future. It's something we need to look at. And eventually, as we grow, it's something we're most likely going to have to do somewhere.
Councillor Tadman?
Mayor, are we going on and on?
Well, the meeting started at 6:54, so.
Oh, so we got a little more time.
We've got a half hour before we have to make a decision.
I'm getting tired.
Well, is council ready to pack it in for the night?
I am, because we still got a long ways to go.
We do. It's just a matter of how much more we can get done. Actually, we don't have a lot more to do. We have 2 more strategies after this. Well, that's the problem.
Would you like me to get the duct tape out and we'll get through it?
Yes, please.
Okay.
So everybody comfortable moving on past support fire and rescue services with that one addition? Thank you. So we move on to engage with members of the community effectively and more frequently. Create a youth advisory committee. When would we like to do that? And do we still want to do that? First of all, do we still want to do that? Go ahead.
Could this not be put into the task force and maybe even look at all committees in a whole and encourage youth on the pertinent committees instead of having just a separate one?
I think that's a good idea.
Because they still have to communicate to the other committees, especially the recreation task force committee that we have. We should really encourage youth and look at having a wide demographic on that, but on all committees, really. I know we have one on our events committee, but he's not really high school and youth type age, right? But I think that's something we should encourage on all committees. I don't think we need just that committee.
So shall we strike this as a strategic planning consideration and then encourage somehow a policy? I don't know whether a policy or an encouragement or something around youth engagement for all of our committees. I don't know if we need to include that as a strategy, a specific strategy in the strategic plan, but something we need to consider as we move forward. Say that again, Madam Clerk. Right, so anybody could apply, but we don't encourage, I think when we see these notices in the newspaper, they are geared toward people who read the newspaper. The next one is introduce quarterly reports to council in the community. Well, that's ongoing. We've introduced them, but we continue to do them quarterly. So shall we just put ongoing there? Create opportunities to develop community-based council committees. Well, I think we've been doing that quite a lot this evening even. So can we remove that as a strategy? Or say that it's complete? We've done that. Develop a customer service policy. That's underway. We're told. Is there a deadline for that, Mr. Councilman? You said no. Okay, Council, what's the deadline for that? Well, at some point, Mr. Castleman will come back and tell us he needs to hire 17 people to get all these things done. So we can add whatever we want to the workload, but remember, it's going to cost us money.
Need a bigger parking lot.
When staff say, you know, you've got 100 things for us to do between now and June, something's got to give, or we have to hire folks to help out, or get a consultant in here. And we all know how we love the word consultant.
That's the first time that's come up.
I know. I know. I thought I'd throw it out there. Madam Clerk.
I just have a question for clarification for the customer service policy, because we do have policies in place for customer service and for complaints driven, those type of things. So we do have some of these policies for customer service. So I'd like more clarification for that. Like, what is the
Well, maybe council, maybe we should, maybe as a council, we should ask staff to bring us the customer service policies that already exist and review them at a council meeting. Would that be fair as a strategy? So we're gonna change that to review customer service policies. And Madam Clerk, what's a reasonable timeline for that? Stop. Stop. October 21, 2021. Thank you very much. Everyone comfortable with that? Update audiovisual tech in the council chambers. That is done, and well done it is when it works. Not a comment about staff's work. That's a comment about tech in general. Study award system for the 2022 elections. We have received a staff report. I think we went around the table and we were all comfortable with the existing system the way it is. If I'm wrong about that, let me know. Otherwise, we're going to mark that as complete. Done. Develop e-services to provide community with better access to municipal services. It says June 2022. We've done a lot of work on this. I guess the question is, from a staff point of view, are we done? Is there more we can do? And from a council and community perspective, are we done, or is there more we can do? Madam Clerk.
There's always more. It's ongoing, because as times change, we get, and it depends on the legislations too. They allow us more.
Right.
Like commissioning of documents. We can now do electronic commissioning of documents. There's all kinds of different things that keep changing because of the COVID.
Shall we put ongoing? Everybody comfortable with that? And the only other comment I make is that we all received an email from a citizen in the community talking about plain language recommendations for our advertisement and discussing greater consultation opportunities in the community. Is that something we want to consider in this strategic plan? No. This would lie under transparency and accountability. I think that's what we're talking about. Does everyone know what I'm talking about? I'm trying to be coy without naming names.
I don't.
This person sent us an email talking about consultancy in the community, talking about the opportunities to engage with citizens in the community. And I suggested that it would be best to talk about it at strategic planning portion.
So, like town halls and stuff.
Sort of, yeah. Are we comfortable? So let me ask this. Are we comfortable with how we engage with I know it's been a difficult year and we haven't been engaging as well as we could. that COVID aside, are we comfortable normally with how we engage with the community?
Just the newsletter, what's happened with that?
What newsletter?
Well, I thought we were going to put out a newsletter. We invited people to register for the newsletter.
Oh, Mr. Hagerman sends one out from time to time.
I registered. I haven't got.
I register as well, and I do. So
You do?
Yeah.
All right. Could be because I'm rural.
So am I. So not a good excuse.
Anyhow, so there's there's a good one, and we need to promote that even more then, and that's a good way. And how often does that go out?
Mr. Hagerman, how often does your newsletter go out?
Trying to do
You hear it?
bi-monthly, which I have been doing.
Hang on for a second, Ben. We're going to try to figure out how we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Mr. Hagerman, could you send an email to members of council and just let us know what the frequency of your newsletter is and so on and so forth? Yeah, I'm getting a head nod, so he'll let us know by email. So with the drawing of blanks, we're going to move on to repair and maintain critical infrastructure, ensuring both, sorry, does anyone want to add anything under engaged with members of the community effectively more frequently as a strategy? Okay, so we move on to the strategy being repair and maintain critical infrastructure, ensuring both fiscal and environmental sustainability. The first goal is develop an infrastructure maintenance plan that includes funding models for road replacement. Staff provided us with some updates on various plans with commitments for annual updates. So I suggest, it says February annually. I just suggest we write update annually. Is that fair? Continue upgrades to the municipal center. This project is starting in April 2021. And I'm suggesting we review it for budget, at budget for an actual deadline. But Mr. Parkinson, it will start in April, but there's a lot of work to be done. I assume that it won't get done this year.
Through your worship, I believe it's speaking to the upgrades to this building, which are complete, minus a couple of deficiencies.
Yeah. Okay. I thought that was to be started this year. No. So it's done.
There's some maintenance work on the back, but that's not what this was intended for. That was just the maintenance work to the brick, which is an approved capital project.
Okay.
Which is to start April of this year.
And will be complete this year?
Absolutely.
Okay. I include that in upgrades to the municipal center, and I'll bet you my friend Councillor Tadman does as well. So we're going to say complete end 2021. How's that sound? Implement the stormwater master plan recommendations. And I've written, suggest we review this for budget. And I mean every year, that we review it at budget every year, because there are ongoing master planning maintenance issues that won't be just done by a specific timeline. So I think we need to review them at the budget. Go ahead, Councillor LeBlanc.
Through your worship, when we adopted the stormwater management plan at the recommendation of the director of public works at that meeting, there's also all kinds of maintenance protocols that are supposed to be followed, reports that are supposed to be generated, and it's been almost 2 to 3 years. I don't think we've seen a report on the stormwater management plan, maintenance plan, or any of the monthly reports or yearly reports that are supposed to be generated as per their ECAs, the recommendation. So I don't know where you put a deadline on these things.
We could just say ongoing. Councillor Bateman?
Just on the recommendations, I know one of the ones we've been emailed about is the water barrels. I think we've all received that email. If council's okay with it, I would forward, once I receive it from our Cotterton Community Association committee. They did a rain barrel fundraiser I'm losing 2020 spring or summer. I don't think all the recommendations, because these are just recommendations that came out of it, right? This doesn't mean that staff or council has to take the lead on it. So if you're okay with it, I can forward you that information and you can send it to whoever, because it would be a good fundraiser if you want to do the rain barrel thing. There's probably lots of service groups or different organizations would love to jump on that and raise money so you can accomplish two things at once. So
Lower Trent did it a couple of years ago too.
yeah, and I think Belleville's doing it now, but I don't think it's the council that's doing it. But if you guys want to see that information when we did it in CCA, I'll be more than happy to send it
That'd
out.
be good to have. Thank you. Councillor Tadman.
When you talked about ongoing and then you said something about bringing recommendations at the annual budget, I think we have to do some things before we get to budget time again, such as in a subdividers agreement with the new addition to the pond. There's a lot of things in the subdividers agreement that should have been done by now or soon with the spring weather and all. And also, when do we maintain the ponds? We did this massive and paid a lot of money for this stormwater master plan, but I never see where we're going to implement what came out of that plan. So can we at least know how staff are working towards what was recommended in the plan?
Mr. Parkinson?
Through your worship. That's done every year at the budget time. We submit the yearly cost for the maintenance work that's recommended in that plan. Harbor Point Pond was the first clean out that council approved. The second one is Brighton by the Bay that we're doing this year. It's the clean out of that pond. I can't remember what ponds next year, but there's oil and grit separators that we clean out. There's catch basin cleanouts that we do every other year. There's some ditching work that we do to improve drainage. And then there's some recommendations in that plan that aren't have-tos, but we try to include them when we do new projects to see how we can improve things as we move forward. So yeah, council sees it every year as part of the budget. And it's in that plan. I believe it's been submitted or at least circulated to council before, that there's that 10-year plan that's in the stormwater management plan that dictates what we should do every year as far as maintenance goes.
Thank you. Councillor Tadman.
Thank you. Just further to that though, can we have an update on what has been done or what is being planned to do from now till to budget time at least? I'd like to see the progress, because I get people saying, you know, how come this isn't done? How come this isn't done? I'd like to be able to say, well, it's in the plan. It'll be there.
I see you're making notes, Mr. Castleman. Is it your intention to provide council with that information? Thank you. Appreciate that. Mr. Castleman indicated yes, he would. Councillor LeBlanc?
Yes, I recall very well at that meeting that one of the questions I asked the Director of Public Works was if there was the financing there, and he said he had talked with the Director of Finances, and the finances were there for every year to do the maintenance on the ponds. The other question I have is that when these ponds are assumed, they have an ECA, and the ECA, you have 90 days to change the name of who owns the pond. And if it isn't done within 5 years, then the ECA becomes invalid. And I was wondering if the names of all the ponds have been changed that we've assumed on a timely manner.
I don't think that has anything to do with the strategic plan, to be fair. I've heard that that's a concern of yours, but I think that will be a problem that we might get an answer to shortly here, but not at this meeting. So we're going to move on to the next. We're going to write that one as ongoing and or review at budget time. The next one, we prepare a water supply continuity plan. The deadline is October 2024. Is that a good deadline, Mr. Parkinson?
I think it could be realistically moved up to 2022 because that's part of our current water model study being completed.
So
and
like
from that, we'll have the rough plan of what to do as far as the
December 2022.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. Everyone okay with that? immediately after. The first report the new council receives. There you go. Develop a long-term sustainability plan for water, wastewater services, Public Works, January 2028. I think we need to long-term sustainability plan for water, wastewater services. So go ahead, Director Whitfield.
So under the Drinking Water Act, we're required to do that sustainability plan for water services every 5 years. And we always include wastewater services in with that study.
So when's the next one due?
I would have to double check. I'm not sure. We think it's 2023 or 2022.
So if we put December 2023 and it's 2022, we will have completed the goal. Everyone comfortable with that? And then the next is design and construct upgrades to the wastewater pollution control plant, including MBBR, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Because we've dealt with this by staff through staff recommendation by way of motion, I suggest breaking it down into several other strategies that are specific to the wastewater treatment plant. So, for example, and I'm just going to list them all with the dates that were provided to us in the staff report that council has accepted. And that is complete upgrade to the Harbor Street Pumping Station Force Main, March 2022. Increase aeration at the wastewater treatment plant, May 2021. Begin EA process to identify best ammonia treatment and a long-term treatment capacity solution, August 2022. Design and construct treatment system identified in EA, September 2023. Complete water modeling infiltration study. We'll need a date suggested by staff. Begin inflow infiltration program to recapture capacity. Again, we'll need staff's recommendation on a date. And those are that's the staff report that council accepted, broken out into six different strategies. Council comfortable with that? They are specific and they are what we're required to do and what council's already provided direction on. So staff will just need the last two goals: complete water modeling infiltration study. When do you think that will be complete?
The water model is one study for the water distribution system, and the infiltration study is related to wastewater, so the sanitary collection. So I would say, I'd be comfortable with December of 2022 for that one, but we're hoping to have that much sooner.
Okay. And begin inflow infiltration program.
It'll be that same study that will recommend that plan, and that would be dependent on budget approval by this council, how we move forward with that one.
Well, actually, it will be dependent on budget approval from the next council. So if I put begin the inflow infiltration, if I put June 2023, does that make sense? Members of council, are you comfortable with those dates? So the last two, so that would then, we'd remove the original goal because it's no longer relevant and add those 6 in there. And then design and construct addition to the BHSC, that's complete. And design and construct industrial park servicing, that is complete. Although we don't have the gas service into the industrial park, the design is complete and we're just, gas is just waiting for someone to say yes to us, essentially. Is that correct, Mr. Parkinson?
That's correct.
Yeah. So, but the design is done. We can mark that strategy as complete.
Yes, Union Gas has completed the design work to put the gas main in.
Thank you very much. So as I read it, that completes our strategic plan refresh. Members of council, are you comfortable with the work we've done? Are there any questions or comments before I read the motion to carry on? So I have a motion moved by Councillor Bateman, seconded by Councillor Anderson, that council approve the strategic plan 2021 refresh exercise as depicted in Schedule 2 attached here too. May I suggest we say as amended, exercise as amended because we've made a lot of amendments here. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? The motion's carried. Madam Clerk, are you aware of anyone who's joining us for question period? That's good because we don't have the tech to manage it. and Rafiq doesn't read lips, we've discovered. All right, I have a motion moved by Councillor Rowley, seconded by Councillor LeBlanc. The council gives a bylaw its first, second, and third reading and finally passes on this date, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Corporation of the Municipality of Brighton Special Council meeting held on March 29th, 2021. Is there any discussion? Those in favor? Are there any opposed? The motion's carried. And before I read the adjournment, staff, thank you very much. I know that this can be grueling, especially when we start piling on. I appreciate the work. The council appreciates the work you do and appreciates the work you will do in order to get us where we need to go with regard to the strategic plan. And members of council, thank you for engaging in this process. It's important. It's important work for the community. So with that, it's a motion moved by Councillor LeBlanc, second by Councillor Rowley, that the March 29th, 2021 special council meeting adjourn at 9:49 p.m. Is there any discussion? Those in favor? Are there any opposed? The motion's carried. Thank you, everyone.